Hi, YouTube. Been thinking about this story that I was told when I was a kid a lot here lately, and I figured I'd put it out there. My grandmother told me this story. Also, if y'all, I don't think I've said this, but this grandmother died very pissed off at me. And ironically, she died pissed off at me. And when I was at her funeral, I actually got the flu for the first time ever, and I haven't had the flu since then. So maybe that's a sign. Okay, but when I was a kid, my grandparents, they always had this extremely large wooden spoon, an extremely large wooden fork hanging in the kitchen, in the dining room kitchen area. And I always wondered what the deal with was, because these things, they were like easily 3 foot long, and they're proportionate. Think of a spoon, but 3 times, 4 times bigger or whatever. They're huge. Okay. Finally, I asked them about it, and they sat down and they told me this story and where these spoons originated and how the concept behind these spoons came, and spoons and forks, I should say, came out. Okay, so the way that they described it to me, and I may not put it in the same words as them, all right, but so you got, and they were very religious, biblical people, and I have my own opinions about that, but I feel like this story is relevant in society nowadays, even though we you know, don't seem to live this way, but it's a good premise in my opinion. Because on here with Clochi Bogmarsh, it's all about my opinion because it's just my opinion of what I see. All right. So there were two tables. One table was in hell. Okay. Which, in my opinion, I have my own thing, and I'm not going to put that on there. And then another table was in heaven. Okay. And on both of these tables, there was endless food and endless water. Endless. I mean, just everything you could think of. All of the water and drink that you wanted, and all of the meats and veggies and desserts, and everything that you would. It's like Thanksgiving dinner, but like to infinity and beyond. All right. So at this table, everybody was sitting at this table, and everybody had their own set of these large spoons and forks. Okay, they had these large spoons and forks. All right. Well, in hell, everyone was so concerned with their own well beings and their own wants and their own individuality. All right. You can call it rugged individuality if you would like. All right. That the spoons and forks were so large that they could never get any of the food into their body. All right. And if you're not putting food in your body, you don't have any point to drink any drink because you don't have anything to wash down or help wash down. All right. So they fought and fought and fought and trying to eat all this glorious food that was presented to them. But they couldn't seem to do it. They just couldn't figure it out. So let's turn our attention to this other table for a minute. Okay? The table in heaven. Okay? So at the table in heaven, you got the same scenario. You've got all this glorious food, all the beverages, everything you would ever want. Same spoon, same fork. The only difference was that the people in heaven, because they were unified and they loved one another, they would use those large spoons and forks to feed the person across the table from them. So they were bountiful in their resources, and they were bountiful in their love, and they were bountiful in their respect for one another, that they weren't only thinking of themselves. They were thinking of the ones around them. right? So the purpose behind this is to think about what what is happening right now. We are supposed to be this individualized. We are all individuals, all right? And we only really care about ourselves, maybe your family and stuff like that. But you never take the time because of your individuality and your rugged individuality, since that's an American term, all right, to stop and think about your neighbor, about the people that you may not like or you may not agree with, and that all of these things they're plentiful in this world. But they're only plentiful in this world if you utilize them correctly. And when I say utilize them correctly, I say utilize them through love of one another and not love of oneself. Okay? So I'm going to leave y'all with that. I'm going to tell y'all I love y'all. And this is Clochi Bogmarsh out, motherfuckers.